this is Arjan and welcome back to Atelier AG. I have a question. Why are there so many challenges in the fall? Inktober is probably the most well known, but there's also Monster Bash, and this year there was King of the Hill Giants, Sculpt the Squig, Golden Eggplant, Simp Shield Slam, Slug Wizards, Hellfire Idol Jam, War Barbie, 28 Mag Challenge, and some alien fossil contest that I can't remember the name of. I don't know what it is about challenges, but I find it difficult not to join. I don't know if it's a sense of community or to participate in a shared creative exercise, or if I'm just a big tryhard. Alright, maybe it's because I'm just a big tryhard. Jokes aside, I did notice there were a few sculpting challenges, and those were just too cool to pass. The first one is the Simp Shield Slam by the In Rust We Trust Discord. Sculpt a face on a shield. A real easy prompt, but it immediately sparked inspiration. I've sculpted these 4 shields inspired by old school fantasy art. I ended up making a mold to be able to make copies too. I am thinking of making a warband or something with these shields, but if you have any other cool ideas, let me know in the comments. The next challenge was the King of the Hill Giant contest by Hill Giant Games. Sculpt or bash together a giant. I wanted to make a giant with crazy proportions, making it truly creepy and unnerving. I think it worked out pretty well. I didn't film sculpting this giant because sometimes I need a project that is purely for myself. Worrying about filming the sculpting process works against my creativity sometimes. However, while I was finishing this sculpt, I really wish I did film this one because it turned out so good. Luckily for you, I did film the last challenge I entered. This challenge is called Sculpt a Squig, and it is run by Goobenskits on Instagram. One of the main reasons I started making sculptures in the first place was because I was inspired by Dungeons and Dragons, but a lot of Miniature World Online is linked to Warhammer. Many of the people I follow take their inspiration from Warhammer lore. So because I follow these people, I have seen squigs before. I could recognize them if I saw them, but I honestly didn't know exactly what does and what doesn't count as a squig. I was happy to learn that there is basically an endless amount of different kinds of squig in Warhammer lore. I learned that squigs are a sort of orcish lifeform that orcs use for all sorts of purposes. They eat them, they ride them, make music with them, use them as weapons. Pretty much anything you can think of can be done with a squig. That was perfect for me because that meant I didn't have to worry about scary Warhammer lore nerds coming after me in the comments for making a wrong kind of squig. But saying this, I realized that they will probably still come after me for making some tiny mistakes somewhere in this video. Anyway, a lot of the squigs I saw online were basically just spheres on 2 legs, so I figured I could change that up a little bit. I decided I would make a very long and more streamlined creature that could run a lot faster than other types of squig. I thought that maybe it could be used by orcs as some kind of messenger to deliver important information into a war zone. I really liked this idea and I was very happy with the dynamic pose I gave this mini. Unfortunately, when I glued it to a base, it turned out that it kept falling over. I could have used a bigger base, but I feel like it would have diminished the sense of speed to the sculpt. Another solution would be to add weight to the base with washers, for example, but I ended up with a much better solution if I say so myself. I gave the squig a leather bag for scrolls. It helps balance the model and at the same time it doesn't limit the sense of movement. In fact, I would say that it increases the illusion of speed. Alright, time for some paint. I primed it and I used my airbrush to give it a zenithal highlight with grey and white. I'm so happy I can use my airbrush again now that I have a dedicated workshop again. The last few years I was doing everything out of my living room and airbrushing was just not an option. But now I can start experimenting with it again. After that I used my alternative to speed paint and contrast paint that I showed in my previous video. I make it with paint, matte medium and airbrush medium in about equal parts. I absolutely love that it allows me to turn all the paints that I already own into contrast paints without having to buy them for ridiculous prices. Even better, I can choose the consistency myself according to what I need. I can make it more opaque by adding paint, prevent it from beading up by adding more matte medium, and I can create glazes or filters by adding airbrush medium. I find it helps applying glazes especially. It is so much easier than making glazes with just water. I then added highlights and shadows with this glazing technique, and I am loving the results. I sculpted a few rocks for the base, painted some of the details, and then I tried giving the squig some pupils. I then removed the pupils in the end because I felt like it made it look very stupid. The blank yellow eyes look a lot better in my opinion. Finally, I added some grass tufts and painted the rim. I am so stoked with the sculpts I made for these 3 challenges. I feel like they mark a big improvement in my ability to sculpt tiny details, and I'm very proud of them. At the time of recording, none of these contests have announced a winner, so fingers crossed. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. At least I really enjoyed making these sculpts. Thank you so much for watching, and here are some more close-up shots. See you next time. Goodbye.